From claims of healings and visions to the world's most inexplicable events, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the truth is always worth the hunt.
EWTN Radio presents The Miracle Hunter with Michael O'Neill.
Welcome to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. We talk a lot about saints and mystics on this show. What exactly is a mystic? We'll be talking today with Kathryn Jean Lopez, the longtime editor at the National Review, who's got a book out from Tan Books called A Year with the Mystics. And there's a pretty exciting development, at least for me. Of course, I'm the author of the book, They Might Be Saints, and producer of the show, They Might Be Saints. So anytime we talk about future saints in America, it's always fun for me. And there's a brand new center called the Sainthood Center that's coming out of Menlo Park, California, where sainthood causes can go to learn more information and to jumpstart their causes to push people along that path from servant of God to venerable to blessed and to saint. So hopefully that results in some more American saints around the corner. We'll be talking with Mike McDevitt from that Sainthood Center in just a little bit. Check out my series, Explore with the Miracle Hunter, each Saturday on EWTN television. On Saturday, June 28th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, the Vilnius episode is up, and I'll be investigating the miraculous image of Our Lady of Mercy, visiting the sites of St. Faustina's early life and the original Divine Mercy image in Lithuania's city capital. And also, They Might Be Saints, which is my other series that airs. A new episode is coming out on July 6th on Sunday at 1:30 p.m. Central Time, and that is Venerable Mary Angeline Teresa McCrory. And you can check that one out. That's the one that people talk about her sainthood being related to her gentleness and her kindness. So check that one out. They Might Be Saints, Venerable Mary Angeline Teresa McCrory. That'll be on Sunday, July 6th at 1:30 p.m. Central Time. Stay tuned for this show. During this show, we're going to be talking about the Might Be Saint of the Day. On today's day, we've got Blessed Teresa Maria Mastena from 1881 to 1951 is when she lived in Italy. And the 365 Days with Mary project, where we look at a Marian devotion from somewhere in the world, we've got Our Lady of the Longing from Warsaw in Poland. And the question of the week, will Pope Leo eventually approve Our Lady of Champion in Wisconsin? And the miracle of the day relates to the Eucharistic miracle of Breda Navart in the year 1300. We'll talk about that one later in the show. Let's take a look at the miracle news. This is kind of interesting miracle news to me. I think that most people don't know this factoid, that when you look at American miracles, we talk about miracles happening every day in all parts of life, miracles big and small. But of course, the Vatican doesn't actually validate every miracle that's people claim around the United States, and there's very few. And the only miracles that, aside from Our Lady of Champion, or in Wisconsin being a Marian apparition that has not been validated by the Vatican yet, of course, only the local bishop. But we're talking about miracles related to sainthood causes as being the only ones from the United States that have actually been recognized by the Vatican and used for a sainthood cause, for example. And perhaps that number is something around 30. There's some that have been used for the propelling Americans along the path to sainthood, blessed and saint. But then there are ones for saints from all around the world, blesseds and saints, that have benefited from miracles from the United States. And there's probably only 30 or so in history from America. And we just got a new one. So there was a miracle in Rhode Island that has opened a path to beatification. So the Pope approved a miraculous healing attributed to the intercession of Father Salvador Valera Parra, a 19th century Spanish priest known for his charity during epidemics and natural disasters in Almeria. And he can now be beatified thanks to the inexplicable healing that occurred in Memorial Hospital in Pawtucket, Rhode Island in the year 2007. And born in 1816, Valera Parra had a childhood marked by a profound faith. And when his father died, as a 13-year-old, Salvador began kneeling before the body, before reciting the divine office. And the Spanish diocesan priest is remembered for many works of charity, including founding, along with St. Teresa Jome, a home for the elderly. Now, this miracle, it involved a premature infant named Taekwon, who was delivered by emergency cesarean section after complications during labor in the year 2007. And he was born without signs of life and suffering from severe oxygen deprivation. This baby showed no improvement after an hour. And the attending Spanish physician, a devotee of servant of God Salvador Valera Parra, he prayed for his intercession, and moments later, the child's heart began to beat. And despite doctors' expectations of lifelong neurological damage, Taekwon developed normally, growing into a healthy, active child. And that is the miracle news for this week that was just announced. Let's take a look at Catholic Pub Trivia. We do this every week where we ask a trivia question and give out a prize to an emailer who writes in the fastest with the correct answer. And of course, the news from last week reported was that now on September 7th, we will see the canonization of Pier Giorgio Frassati and Carlo Acutis. And that is big news, as there's been the question of when would the postponed canonization of Carlo Acutis be? And when will Pier Giorgio be canonized? And both of those were moved to September 7th, much to the dismay of people who had plans to be there for August for Pier Giorgio. But the question from last week was, who was the last Italian man to be canonized? And the most recent Italian male to be canonized is San Giuseppe Alemano, a Catholic priest who lived from 1851 to 1926, and he was proclaimed a saint by Pope Francis on October 20th, 2024. And a few of the other recently canonized Italian men are Alemano, as I mentioned, in 2024, St. Artemides Zatti, he was canonized in 2022, there was a St. Luigi Maria Palazzolo, he was canonized in 2022 also, and St. Gaetano Catanoso, he was canonized in 2005. So those are all the most recently canonized Italian men. Thanks for everyone who tried that one. We got some Padre Pio answers in there, people trying to guess this correct answer. And so we're going to stay on this theme of saints as we're talking about these young Italian saints to be canonized on September 7th. Who is the youngest male saint, Italian or otherwise, canonized by the Catholic Church? And we're actually going to leave out Francisco Marto, who was the youngest male saint canonized. It's the visionary of Fatima. But who is the next youngest male saint other than Francisco Marto of Fatima? If you think you know that answer and want to win the prize, the image of the faces of Mary, send me an email to questions@miraclehunter.com, and maybe you'll be the one with the right answer, and answers and winners will be posted on the show page on miraclehunter.com. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking with Kathryn Jean Lopez about her book, A Year with the Mystics. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. Well, through God's grace and blessing for working with EWTN, I've been able to travel all around the world to incredible shrines and other places of miracles. And as I've done so, I've been able to see places of grace and mystics where they have shrines and otherwise dedicated to these great saints, wonder-working saints perhaps, people who have a special connection with God perhaps, or something else entirely. But we call them mystics, and there's a handful of famous ones throughout Christian history. And I'm so excited about this book. There's a book that's out from Tan Books, who's one of my publishers as well, and they've come out with this book, A Year with the Mystics. And this book came out a couple years ago, and it's written by Kathryn Jean Lopez, a longtime editor at the National Review and author of numerous Catholic books. And we're so excited to have Kathryn on the show. Welcome to the show, Kathryn.
Thank you, Michael. It's so good to be on. I think the last time I saw you in person was actually, speaking of holy people, was at Michael McGivney's beatification, or the night of. It was by
Yes,
the
that is correct. We were getting ready to do the interview for an episode of They Might Be Saints, and you were there. And that was it was a Halloween canonization, if I remember, or beatification, I remember.
Yeah,
and it was during COVID,
right.
so people were wearing Michael McGivney masks, not the Halloween kind, but the COVID kind.
The night that Columbus provided.
Yeah, exactly right. So good memory on that. But I'm excited about your book, A Year with the Mystics, out from Tan Books from a couple years ago. And it's an interesting thing. We call people mystics, perhaps. I think that usually implies that they're saints, but doesn't always. And not every saint is a mystic. How would you define mystic if you had to come up with a definition?
Well, if you go to the Catechism, it talks about mysticism being union with God. And so basically, mysticism, although it sounds super exotic, it's the journey of our lives. We're supposed to be living in union with God, and it's an ongoing process. And so it's actually what we're all called to, even though most of us don't go about our days thinking about mysticism or thinking that we're mystics. One reason I wanted to do the book is a couple of years before, my friend Gary Jansen, who's a Catholic author, had this beautiful little book on the station that was basically an Ignatian exercise in the Stations of the Cross. So using the imagination, it was a little different than normal Stations of the Cross, but nothing crazy. And our mutual friend Jennifer Fulweiler, who's now doing Catholic comedy out in the country, really interesting woman, former atheist. She wrote the intro to the book, and she said when she first met Gary, she met him on a park bench in New York City, Central Park, and he started talking, and she realized that he was a mystic. And I gave that book to my mom, and she started reading the intro, and later on, she calls me and she says, that book you gave me, you said it was written by a friend of yours. You didn't tell me he's a mystic. I'm like, Mom, that just means he prays. And so that kind of put this bug in my ear, or whatever, to make mysticism more accessible and not exotic. And another reason to be fully transparent, I was on a silent retreat a few years before the book, and I just kind of had some stuff happen, nothing crazy, but I remember saying to my spiritual director, like, is this normal? And it was just that, that God uses the imagination and, plants words possibly and things like this, things you would find in the writings of the saints, right? And he kind of smiled and he said, well, that's what happens when you make time to pray, And so that led me on this journey where I just wanted to read as many saints as possible, because it's like really amazing when you have these moments where, wow, okay, I think I have confirmation that this is the will of God. Maybe just like a window or just some kind of confirmation, some kind of affirmation, some kind of insight that is not of you, that is clearly of God. And of course, St. Ignatius is great at, his exercises are great tools in discerning what is truly of God. And anyway, when you start reading various saints and other holy people who aren't necessarily canonized, you get a sense of how God works with each individual, and yet in all of these writings, you clearly see the same God. And one of the things that I really thought was important about the book is, so if we know anything about Christian mysticism, we think of John of the Cross, maybe Catherine of Siena, Teresa of Avila. I wanted to include John Paul II and Mother Cabrini and Elizabeth Ann Seton, and people who we think of as doers. Mother Cabrini, the patron saint of immigrants, Elizabeth Ann Seton founding schools and hospitals, John Paul II, a man about the world, none of them could have done any of what they did without their deep life of prayer. And there are many stories of people, because John Paul II was super accessible in terms of letting people in on his, morning masses and things. And a lot of people would report, George Weigel talks about this, his biographer, how if you happened upon him in his chapel before Mass, I remember he had I think an icon of Our Lady of Czestochowa, among other things. You would think he wasn't even there. He was so deep in prayer. And I actually had one experience with Pope Francis at the North American Pontifical College. He was there before his visit to the United States. I was part of a symposium on Junipero Serra, who, of course, Francis canonized when he came to the United States. And anyway, after communion, during communion, he didn't distribute communion. I think he was having hip problems at the time. So he was sitting on the altar, and he was so deep in prayer, I wanted one of the MCs to check on him because I wasn't quite sure he was still with us. And it was unquestionably prayer. And even somebody as busy as a pope, not only can do it, but needs to do it.
Absolutely. We're talking today with Kathryn Jean Lopez, author of the book A Year with the Mystics, out from Tan Books. And we're discussing what is mysticism, who are the mystics, and how does this book bring them forward. And so talk a little bit about the book, your hopes for how people would use it. I know that many books written in the style of A Year with the Mystics or otherwise, there's a certain way to bite off small pieces of the book as you go throughout the year. What's your hope for people who pick up the book?
So A Year with the Mystics is part of a series that Tan Books / St. Benedict's Press have. And I had interviewed some authors, and I really consider myself more of a curator because I write stuff in there. There are meditations I write, but the bulk of the book is really the writings of these people who have come before. And there are two people who are alive who are in the book. Father Donald Haggerty, who's a priest at St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York, who's written a bunch of books for Ignatius Press, who is amazing in terms of, one of his books is called The Contemplative Revolution, to give you an idea of where his mind is. He wants us all to be contemplative, and he's a great help in that. And Cardinal Cantala Mesa, who was a preacher to the papal household for years and years and years. I have a meditation from him. Everybody else has gone to the Lord. But my hope is, the series is such that every page has no more than 400 words on it. And it's also not gated. So you can start it whenever you want. You can start it, order it from Amazon today. And actually, last time I checked, it was maybe 26% off, something great like that on Amazon. So I encourage people. I actually keep meaning to buy a bunch of copies because it's better than my author discount. So anyway, my hope is that people who are curious about spirituality, period, happen upon the book. And I know at one point I checked and Target online was selling it. That was I considered that a win. If somebody randomly picks it up in Target, that's what I'm going for. Of course, I want all of us practicing Catholics to read it, and not because of me, but because of the richness in it. But if somebody's curious and then flips through the book and finds themselves in the heart of the church, thanks be to God for that.
Wonderful. I was going to ask you where people could get the book, and apparently Target and otherwise. That's quite nice that anybody can run into the book, or anywhere Catholic books are sold, including Tan Books.
That discount. Hopefully. I, by the way, didn't want to write the book. I wanted someone else to write the book. I had interviewed authors. Mike Aquilina was one of some of the other books in the series, and I said to the editor at TAN, you really should have A Year with the Mystics, and so that became me doing it, which in retrospect I'm super grateful for. But I didn't consider myself an expert on them, but I was joyfully grateful to become one, although my process of writing involved me generally going to a noon mass and then sitting in the back of a church for 4 hours writing. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of priests in New York and Washington, D.C. who think I'm a homeless person with a laptop. But they were very kind. Nobody shooed me away.
Well, sometimes books are hard to write, so you got to pick your spots that work. But
right. Well, in front of the Blessed Sacrament, you can't beat. And it also, I work at a magazine, a National Review, and I'm paying attention to the news all the time. So locking myself in a church and not looking at the news seemed like the only way to get this done.
Absolutely. Well, we're so grateful to you, Kathryn Jean Lopez, for joining us on today's program, taking a break from your editing at the National Review to talk about your book from just a couple years ago, A Year with the Mystics, out from Tan Books. People can go to the Tan Books website or anywhere Catholic books are sold to find this one. And as we'll give you one last parting shot. What would your hope be for the person who stumbles on this book in Target or otherwise picks this one up? What would your hope be for them getting to know the mystics?
Oh, well, I've been praying since before it was published that anybody in that boat, or anyone, frankly, who is a baptized Catholic who fell away, who happens upon the book for one reason or another, finds themselves back in church or in church for the first time. And I also pray that people are there to receive them, because that's not always a given. And the Holy Spirit makes sure that happens. And I pray, too, that we're all more aware of the fact that sometimes people just stumble upon a Sunday Mass or even a weekday Mass, and to keep your eye out for a newcomer, and make sure you're a joyful Catholic, whatever's going on,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kathryn Jean Lopez, author of the book A Year with the Mystics, for joining us on today's program.
Well, thank you for the beautiful work you do, Michael.
Thank you so much. And that was Kathryn Jean Lopez. Check this book out, A Year with the Mystics. It's out from Tan Books. Pick that one up from Tan Books online or anywhere Catholic books are sold. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be looking at the question of the week. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. Hey, I love getting your questions. People write in from around the world with questions about miracles happening in today's world and those that have happened centuries ago. And I love getting the questions in the email inbox, but I also like answering questions in person. And I recently gave a talk in Iowa and got some great questions from the crowd there. And I travel around the country, maybe giving 20 talks a year at different parishes, shrines, or conferences. And I always talk about miracles. That's all I talk about. So whether it's Marian apparitions or Eucharistic miracles or how the Catholic Church investigates the supernatural or the sainthood process, I always focus on miracles. But if you want to have me speak in your parish or your area, send me an email, go through my website, click on the contact tab, and you can send me a message that way. But for this week's question, this is a good question. This is a fun one. People are talking about this in Chicago. We have a Chicago Pope, which is exciting for all of us from Chicago. And relatedly, of course, Wisconsin is our next door neighbor, and there is the apparition of Our Lady of Champion that occurred there in 1859. So a question that I got this past week was, will Pope Leo approve the apparition at Our Lady of Champion? And of course, it is worth mentioning that it is not necessary for Pope Leo to approve it, because we saw that 1859 Marian apparition was recognized by Bishop David L. Ricken in December of 2010, so that's the furthest extent that it could be approved in a certain way. According to the old norms from 1978, a local bishop is the one who gives the approval of an alleged supernatural event. And of course, as we've talked about ad nauseum on this show, in 2024 last year, the Vatican changed its rules about how miracles are investigated and validated including Marian apparitions, and doing so, they said that no longer will the Church declare anything supernatural, with a slight caveat that the Pope can do it if he wants to. But I think that this is a potential case where we could see the Pope doing it if he wanted to. Because Pope Leo, we all know he's going to come to Chicago at some point, being the Chicago Pope, and I'm quite sure he's going to visit his former city in a big celebration. And that shrine of Our Lady of Champion in Champion, Wisconsin, near Green Bay, is not too far away. So theoretically, if Pope Leo wanted to, after doing a Mass in Grant Park or otherwise in Chicago, he could take a short ride up to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and set foot on that shrine. And in doing so, there would be a sign of recognition. Popes don't visit unapproved Marian apparition sites, and when they set foot on the property, the optics of it is a sort of a form of approval. When we see a pope dedicating a prayer to a certain title of Our Lady or canonizing a saint related to that Marian apparition, or visiting in person, or bringing a golden rose through an emissary. These are all ways that we see the Church showing signs of recognition, even if it's not going to release a formal statement. So I'm quite sure that the people at the Champion Shrine would be excited to have Pope Leo pay him a visit the next time he comes the first time he comes to the United States as Pope. So we'll stay tuned for that one, perhaps in a few years when the Pope returns to Chicago. Let's take a look at the 365 Days with Mary project. We do this every week, where we talk about the Marian devotion of the day as it lines up exactly to the day's date. We all know Fatima, May 13th, or Guadalupe, December 12th, or Fatima, February 11th, but believe it or not, there's a different Marian devotion that lines up to each and every day of the calendar year. And so for today's date, June 28th, we've got Our Lady of Longing, and that's from Warsaw in Poland in the year 1998. And one of the oldest churches in the Archdiocese of Warsaw is St. Elizabeth Pausin. It's located on the main altar is a painting of Our Lady of Longing. The artist is unknown, from the first half of the 17th century. At either side, the image is surrounded by statues of St. Adalbert and Stanislaus, the Polish bishops and martyrs, and the testimony of miracles and graces related to Our Lady of Longing, that icon, have been collected at least since the mid-17th century. And on June 28, 1998, the image became the fourth image of Mary in the Archdiocese of Warsaw to be canonically crowned. And that is Our Lady of Longing from Warsaw in Poland, and crowned in the year 1998. And that's today's 365 Days with Mary. Let's take a look at the miracle of the day. We also do this every week, where we talk about a miracle happening at some day in Christian history, and lining up exactly to the day's date. So in June of the year 1300, in what is now the Netherlands, a miraculous event involved a consecrated host. In the canons of St. John's Cathedral in De Bosch reported that the host left the priest's hands, hovered in the air, and then returned glowing as seen by many witnesses. And so that is the Eucharistic miracle of Breda Nevart, and that is today's miracle of the day. And for those people who are Medjugorje devotees, they of course point to this past week being the first apparition claimed of Our Lady of Medjugorje. And of course, we haven't seen the official approval as supernatural, but in this past year, for the first time, the Catholic Church has recognized the apparitions of Our Lady of Medjugorje, saying nihil obstat, nothing stands in the way. But the first reported vision occurred on June 24th, 1981. Let's take a look at the sainthood news. We do this every week, where we talk about those people on the path to sainthood, whether or not those are miracle workers or martyrs or ordinary people living extraordinary lives of heroic virtue. We look at those people who might be saints. And so Pope Leo, in one of his first acts related to sainthood, declared last week that French martyrs who died between 1944 and 1945, many after being arrested by the Nazi regime for their ministry and resistance efforts under German occupation, they are declared martyrs and are blessed. So among them were Father Raymond Caire, a 28-year-old diocesan priest who died of typhus, In October of 1944, Father Gerard Martin Candrier, a 24-year-old Franciscan who perished in the same camp in January 1945, Father Valet, a 23-year-old seminarian who died in Mauthausen in October of 1944, and Jean Mestre, a 19-year-old lay member of the Young Christian Workers who was killed in the Gestapo in custody in May 1944. So there was a big number of people who died here in this martyrdom, and so and he also declared 124 martyrs from the Spanish Civil War, all from the Diocese of Jaén, killed between 1936 and 1938, and they included 109 diocesan priests, 1 religious sister, and 14 lay Catholics. So that was a big day for the canonization of martyrs, or beatification of martyrs, as we should say. So that was a big announcement coming from the Vatican related to the activities of Pope Leo and sainthood. Now let's take a look at the Might Be Saint of the Day. We do this every week, where we talk about a person on the path to sainthood whose feast day or death anniversary is on the day's date. So for today, June 28th, we've got Blessed Teresa Maria Mastena, who lived from 1881 to 1951 in Italy. And her memorial is June 28th today. She was born on December 7th, 1881, in Balvellone, Verona, Italy, as Teresa Maria Mastena, and she was the oldest of 5 children of Giulio Mastena, a grocer, and Maria Antonio Casarotti, an elementary school teacher. And they were raised in a pious family, and one brother was a priest, another tried to be, and a sister became a tertiary nun, and he received First Communion in 1891, during which she made a private vow of chastity. And she received her confirmation in 1891, and she felt a call to religious life, and she tried to take the veil at age 14, but she was considered too young. At the age of 17, she joined the Institute of the Sisters of Mercy in Verona in Italy, and in 1903 she made her profession, received the same name of Sister Pasitea of the Child Jesus. In the cloister, she was known for strict adherence to the rules, devotion to the Eucharist, to the Passion of Jesus, to his holy face. However, she soon began to realize that the cloistered life was not for her, so she returned to service as headmistress of a school in Milan. And she was transferred to schools in Capua and then to San Fiore in Italy. In 1930, she founded the Institute of the Sisters of the Holy Face with the mission to propagate, repair, and restore Jesus' gentle image in souls, end quote. On December 8, 1936, the Institute was canonically erected as the diocesan congregation, was the first 10 members made the perpetual vows, and Mother Maria Pia was appointed Superior General, a position she held for the rest of her life. And she died in 1951 on June 28th of a heart attack while working to start a new house there in San Fiore in Italy. And Pope Paul II, in a decree of heroic virtues, declared her venerable on July 5th, 2002. And this was a recognition of blessed later by Pope Benedict XVI on November 13th, 2005, as that was the elevating her to blessed with one more miracle. She will be declared a saint. And that is today's Might Be Saint of the Day, Blessed Teresa Maria Mastena from Italy. For more information on They Might Be Saints, you can go to theymightbesaints.com. You can watch past episodes of They Might Be Saints online, on demand, and you can also tune in on Sunday, July 6th at 1:30 p.m. for the They Might Be Saints episode on Venerable Mary Angeline Teresa McCrory. You can go on demand, or you can find out more if you sign up about the future saint known for her mother's gentleness and her kindness. That's Venerable Mary Angeline Teresa McCrory, coming up on Sunday, July 6th at 1:30 p.m. Central Time. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking with Mike McDevitt from the Cora Evans Sainthood Cause about the new Sainthood Center in California. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. Well, people who know me know I'm a Chicago guy, but I did for some years live in California. And I actually lived in Menlo Park, California, when I attended Stanford University on the West Coast. And there's a new Sainthood Center back in my old stomping grounds. I probably would have visited the place had I been out there at the time, but this is brand new. And it's a Sainthood Center at St. Patrick's Seminary and University in Menlo Park, California. And it's started in conjunction with or commissioned by the Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone from San Francisco, of course. And he commissioned this center to foster a deeper understanding of the processes involved in recognizing the holiness of individuals and their potential for sainthood. And we're so excited today to be joined by Mike McDevitt from that Sainthood Center. Welcome to the program today, Mike.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Michael.
It's great to chat with you again. We've chatted in the past about the Cora Evans cause, and we'll mention that a little bit later in the program. So I know that you are deeply involved as an executive director of a cause for sainthood yourself. Talk a little bit about this project, the Sainthood Center, how it came to be.
Well, it came to be from our firsthand experience as lay people working on the cause for servant of God, Cora Evans, realizing the difficulty it is for lay people to take on a cause. And we've gone through the whole process, and Cora's cause now is with the dicastery for the causes of saints, and they're doing their part. So we've gone through the entire diocesan phase of the sainthood cause for Cora. And as we've reflected on our experience, we felt that there was a real need in the Catholic Church in America for help with sainthood causes. Frankly, I believe we need more saints recognized in America. I'd like to see their stories told. I want examples that people from, born and raised in America have set for us. So we came up with the idea of creating the Center for Sainthood Studies and working with St. Patrick's Seminary and Archbishop Cordileone. We've developed the center. It's something that's created by lay people that I believe addresses a real need in the Catholic Church in America.
Absolutely. I'm really excited about this. As you know, I've spoken with you in the past and spoken with almost every sainthood cause in the United States, perhaps about participating in the program They Might Be Saints on EWTN or otherwise on the radio. I've done a lot of interviews with those causes looking to promote somebody from the United States and move them along the path from servant of God to venerable to blessed and then to saint. So I've been well aware of the struggles that different causes have had and some of the challenges and the roadblocks and the hiccups and the lack of information that's out there, perhaps. So this center really fills in the gap. And I think that, just in my readings, I've noticed that there's numerous resources that the center offers with consultation and digitizing of various things, networking, promotion of a cause, and assistance with grant writing. And there are various programs, courses, and certificate programs that can be run through your center as well. Talk a little bit about for a cause who was just getting off the ground, who they had a candidate who they were looking to have identified as a servant of God and then move along that path to sainthood with them, which takes years and years, as we all know. Talk about how they would connect with the Sainthood Center and what resources they might tap into there.
So the core piece that we've been working on, two postulators, Dr. Emanuele Spidicato and Dr. Valerie Hildeman, both doctors in canon law and civil law as well, and working with them to develop a course that will take people through step by step everything that they need to know to help them with the sainthood process for the diocesan phase. And, as you know, and I'm sure your listeners know, that any sainthood cause begins in the diocese where the person lived when they passed away. So this is the whole focus on the diocesan phase. The program that they're developing, which is actually the development in the next few weeks in Rome, our representative is going to be there with the two Roman postulators, putting all the details of the course together. But it really meets the need that I think that sometimes you think about bringing a sainthood cause forward, it's almost like, well, where do I start? It seems mysterious in some ways, and that perhaps it comes from the leadership of the church. There's somebody that you can turn to. And what we found is that there's nothing like this in the church in America right now, and that this is going to really open up doors for people. We'll be giving them the knowledge that they need, the practical skills, also networking opportunities. It'll definitely give people the templates that they need and insights into canon law. The whole process for sainthood is very clearly defined in terms of what you have to provide, what you have to deliver to the Vatican. But it's not really, when you read canon law, it's not really like a how-to guide. It's more like these are the rules that you need to follow. These are the, what you have to establish. So how do you go forward with creating a theological commission or a historical commission? How do you do the interviews properly? What is the role of the notary? The tribunal and so forth. All these things, are new to most lay people, and so that was our original motivation, and that's the kind of work that we're delivering. The course
That's wonderful,
is really
and I suppose you teach them how to wrap the red ribbon around the box with the stamp on it and send it to the dicastery for the causes of saints when you're done. Of course, that's a minor detail in the whole process. Yeah,
it seems like it, but it's if you've never done that before, that becomes like, oh my gosh, how do we do that? So that's definitely one piece of it. I think that the course itself is open for canon lawyers as professional development, for any priest or religious or lay people, to take them through the process itself and at a level that everybody can fully understand. So that's been the primary focus, and that course is going to be delivered in February of 2026. It's February 16th to the 21st next year, and it'll
Wonderful.
be.
And I see that it's at the Vallombrosa Retreat Center in Menlo Park. Is where.
Well, when you mentioned Menlo Park, I said, "Hey, this is your old stomping ground." So.
That's right.
It's really Vallombrosa is about 1 mile from St. Patrick's Seminary and University, and it's a perfect it's a retreat house setting. So the whole group will be together, and we'll have our meals together. So in addition to the classroom type teaching and the working, day to day with that, there'll be the conversations and with people, very customized discussions on specific situations that people may be dealing with, and so it's really an excellent resource for anybody who's pretty much at any level of moving a sainthood cause forward.
Wonderful, and I'll switch gears just a bit. I know that you are the executive director of the Cora Evans cause, a servant of God, a former Mormon and American housewife. And you mentioned that the diocesan phase has closed, and it is now in the Roman phase. Congratulations on moving to that next step. And of course, you're looking for the declaration of venerable. It would be the next step of a recognition of heroic virtues for Cora. And then after that, the search for miracles is in full force, looking for miracles that would propel her to blessed and then to saint. How is the search for miracles going at this point?
Well, we have one case that is in the very, very beginning stages that I don't really have anything that I can say about it at this point. We've had a lot of prayers answered. A lot of people, have told us that, and several who attribute their vocation to the priesthood to the writings of Cora Evans. So it's moving at God's speed. We know that ultimately only God can make a saint, but we're doing our best to bring her cause to the attention of people, and she's, I think, a great person to pray for her intercession. She was a convert, and I've always thought that many of us deal with family members who have drifted away from the church and so forth. Cora may be a great patron for that, a great person to pray to for those who we know who have disaffiliated from the Catholic Church. And since Cora took that journey from Mormonism to converting to the Catholic faith, we know it's a special interest for her. I would also
Wonderful.
say Mormons. If any Mormons happen to listen to the program, you've got one of your own there that will be a great person to pray to.
Wonderful. And people can go to CoraEvans.com for more information about that sainthood cause that's underway.
Right.
And we're speaking today with Mike McDevitt, the executive director of that cause. And circling back to the Sainthood Center as we wrap up the program today, this great new initiative at St. Patrick's Seminary and University in Menlo Park, California. How can people find out more? You said canon lawyers or lay faithful or otherwise people associated with causes or just want to know how the canonization cause and process works. What is the best place online that people can go to find out more information?
If they go to sainthoodcenter.com, that's the easiest way. There's a lot of information about the Sainthood Center, but also the information for how to sign up for this course. So sainthoodcenter.com is the best place to go.
Wonderful. Well, we're so grateful to you, Mike McDevitt, the executive director of the Cora Evans cause and representative of the Sainthood Center. People can go to sainthoodcenter.com for more information and to sign up for that new course available next February in Menlo Park, California. Thank you so much, Mike McDevitt, for joining us on today's program.
Well, thank you. God bless you.
God bless. That was Mike McDevitt. So fascinating, this new Sainthood Center coming out to us from the Archbishop of San Francisco as the sponsor of this program. And check out sainthoodcenter.com to sign up for a course or to find out more about this great new project that's coming from the West Coast. And that's all the time we have for today's show. If you missed any of this episode or want to catch up on past episodes, you can go to EWTN.com/radio, check out the audio archives, or download the free EWTN app. I'd like to thank our guest today, Kathryn Jean Lopez, author of the book A Year with the Mystics, out from Tan Books, and also Mike McDevitt from the Cora Evans cause, and also the Sainthood Center. Go to sainthoodcenter.com for more information on that. Check out my series, Explore with the Miracle Hunter. It airs every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Coming up on this Saturday, I'll be investigating the miraculous image of Our Lady of Mercy, and I'll visit the sites of St. Faustina's early life and the original Divine Mercy image in Lithuania's capital city. For Explore Vilnius is the new episode coming out on June 28th at 6 p.m. Central Time. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today on Miracle Hunter, where from claims of healings and visions to the world's most inexplicable events, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the truth is always worth the hunt. Talk to you next week.